Verbs, Chapter 4. What is a verb? A verb is most commonly the action in a sentence. It's what the subject is doing. For instance, look at the following sentence. Tony ran 3 miles before breakfast. Tony is the subject, the doer of the action, and ran is the verb. It's what Tony is doing. There are also other types of verbs. One type is the state of being verb. It indicates that something exists. Here's a list of these verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. These state of being verbs must be memorized. When you see any of the first 5 and been, they will always be verbs. Look at the following example. Tony is at the bus stop. Tony is the subject, and is acts as the verb, a state of being verb indicating that Tony exists at that place. The third type of verb is the helping verb. This is a verb that precedes an action verb in order to show when the action occurred or will occur. Look at the following example. Tony will run in Tuesday's race. Tony is the subject, and will is a helping verb, and run is what's called a main verb. There are 23 helping verbs in the English language which should be memorized. Below are 3 lists. The first list includes those verbs that will never stand alone unless one is used at the end of the sentence, in which case the main verb is understood. Can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, and must. The second list is the state of being verbs, which may be used as either main verbs or helping verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. The third list is other helpers, which may either stand alone or be used in front of main verbs. Has, have, and had, do, does, and did. Memorize these. A main verb can have up to 3 helping verbs preceding it. Tony should have been working last night. Tony is the subject. Should have been working are verbs. A fourth type of verb is called a linking verb. There are 2 functions of linking verbs. One is to link the subject with an adjective describing that subject. For example, Tony looks handsome. Tony is the subject, looks is the linking verb, and handsome is the adjective describing Tony. The other use of linking verbs is to link the subject with a noun or a pronoun that refers to the subject. Tony was our quarterback. In this case, Tony is the subject, was is the linking verb, and quarterback is a noun that renames Tony. The state of being verbs can be linking verbs, along with words such as seem, feel, become, appear, taste, and smell. Now that you know about the types of verbs, there are a few more things you need to know. Number 1, verbs, like subjects, will never be found in prepositional phrases, so circle them first. The president of student council spoke to the Board of Education. Of student council, to the board, and of education are all prepositional phrases, so we need to circle them to get them out of our way, to indicate that we know that the verb and the subject can't be there. Once the prepositional phrases are circled, what's left is the president spoke. Find the subject by asking, who spoke? Then find the verb by asking, the president did what? Let's do another. Find the prepositional phrases in this sentence. The box of cereal is on the 3rd shelf of the cupboard. Of cereal on the 3rd shelf of the cupboard. Did you find those 3? Okay, now who or what did it? Box. And what's the verb? Is. The verb is one of the state of being verbs that must be memorized. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. There's no question you can ask to find this type of verb. It's also helpful to identify each infinitive. An infinitive is the word to followed by a verb. Take a look at this one. Kendall raced into his classroom to grab a seat. First, circle the prepositional phrase and then bracket the infinitive. Although an infinitive contains a verb, once it's part of the infinitive, it no longer functions as a verb. Now, what are the subject and verb of the sentence? Number 2, verb phrases. A verb may be used alone, or there may be a verb phrase, which includes 1, 2, or 3 helping verbs and a main verb. I washed the dishes has 1 verb. I should wash the dishes. 2. I should have washed the dishes. 3. I should have been washing the dishes. 4. Helping verbs usually indicate the time of the action. The last verb, the main verb, is usually an action verb, something you can do. Let's try one. The children have been playing in their rooms for hours. First, circle the prepositional phrases. Next, underline the subject, who. Now, what are the verbs? Have been playing. Helping verb, main verb. Number 3, linking verbs versus helping verbs. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell whether a state of being verb is being used as a linking verb, which stands alone, or as a helping verb, which is followed by a main verb. Look at the following sentences. John is pleasing his new boss. John is pleased with his new job. Who is the subject? John. And which word can we absolutely identify as a verb? Is. The difficult part is deciding about pleasing and pleased. To decide if they are verbs, recall that a main verb is usually an action and usually something that the subject is doing. In the first sentence, John is doing the pleasing. Therefore, pleasing is a verb. But in the second sentence, John is not doing the pleased. Pleased just describes his feelings, that he is happy. Therefore, pleased is not a verb. In some senses, it's easier to tell that the state of being verb stands alone. The wool coat was rough and scratchy. The coat is obviously not doing rough or scratchy, so was stands alone. Linking verbs such as feel, seem, or look cannot be helping verbs, so they can never begin a verb phrase. That means that they're always alone. Try to determine whether the verbs in the following sentences stand alone or start verb phrases. The vending machine is broken. Machine is. The machine is not doing broken, so broken is not a verb. Leonard was finding the course very difficult. Leonard was finding. Leonard is doing the finding, so it is a verb. The glass over the photograph appears cloudy. Margaret seems happy in her relationship. Number 4. Compound verbs. There may be more than one verb or verb phrase in a sentence called a compound verb. If the subject is doing more than one thing, there's a compound verb. The car skidded through the red light and hit a garbage truck. Through the red light is prepositional. Car is the subject. Skidded and hit are verbs. Mariana has been studying every night and will take the test Tuesday. Mariana is the subject. Has been studying are verbs. Will take are verbs. In the first example, there are 2 standalone verbs. The car did 2 things, skidded and hit. In the second sentence, there are 2 separate verb phrases, has been studying and will take. Number 5. Command sentences. In a command sentence, one in which the reader or listener is being told to do something, the subject is not actually written. It's understood to be you. The verb is usually the first word in the sentence or the word following please. Take a left at the stop sign. Who? You. What should you do? Take. Please finish your homework before class. Who? You. What should you do? Finish. Do not answer your cell phone during class. Who? You. What should you not do? Do is a helping verb. Answer is a main verb. Number 6. Questions. The majority of the time, subjects come before verbs in sentences. However, in questions, the order is somewhat different. Questions often take one of 4 different forms. Helping verb, subject, verb. Have you listened to their last CD? Verb, then subject. Is Lisa at work? Question word, helping verb, subject, and verb. How did Jack finish so quickly? Or question word, verb, subject. What is this? In all of these cases, a verb comes before the subject. Other reverse order sentences. In addition to questions, there are several other types of sentences in which the verb precedes the subject. One is sentences beginning with here or there. There are many interesting places in South Dakota. In South Dakota is prepositional. Here and there can never be subjects. Places is your subject. Are is your verb. Here is the book for the course. For the course is prepositional. Here and there can never be subjects. Book is your subject. Is the verb. Neither here nor there can ever be subjects or verbs. Usually a state of being verb or a helping verb immediately follows here or there, and then a subject comes later. Another type of reverse order sentence involves prepositional phrases. Sometimes, for interest, a writer simply reverses the order. Standard order: majestic eagles soared across a bright blue sky. Prepositional phrases often fall at the end. Eagles soared. Reverse order: across a bright blue sky soared majestic eagles. For fun, we sometimes place the prepositional phrase at the beginning, resulting in the reversal of the subject and the verb. Number 8. Words ending in ing. Words ending in ing can be confusing because they seem like verbs, but many are not. They can be nouns, adjectives, and other constructions called verbals. In order to be a verb, a word ending in ing must have a helping verb preceding it in the sentence. Gardening is becoming a fascinating activity for me. In the above sentence, there are 3 words ending in ing, but only one is functioning as a verb. Gardening is the subject, so it's a noun. Fascinating describes the word activity, so it's an adjective. Becoming is a verb because it is preceded by the helping verb is. Number 9. Adverbs are words that describe verbs. They are generally found before, after, or between verbs, but they are not verbs themselves. One type of adverb is a word that ends in ly, such as finally, happily, suddenly, or quietly. The pirate suddenly burst through the door. Pirate, burst, subject, verb. Although suddenly is near the verb burst, it is not a verb. Most words ending in ly are not verbs. Other adverbs are listed in the table below. Not, or the N', never, always, sometimes, often, seldom, just, soon, very, and those words ending in ly. These words are adverbs, not verbs. Again, although these words are found near verbs, they are not verbs. Number 10. Contractions. Sometimes verbs are combined with other words to create contractions. In these instances, be sure to identify which part of each contraction is the verb and which part is something else, such as a subject or an adverb. I'm happy with my new job. I am. I'm. Trina's a firefighter. Trina is. Trina's. Alan won't go to the mall. Won't is will, not. The children weren't eating the cake. Weren't is were, not. In the preceding contractions, only the am, is, will, and were are verbs. Do not mark the other word parts as verbs. Some do precede main verbs, though. Go and eating. The process. Number 1, read each sentence and circle the prepositional phrases. Number 2, look at what's left, ask who or what did the action, and underline the subject or subjects once. Be on the lookout for compound subjects or reverse order sentences. And number 3, ask what the subject did to find any action verbs. Look for state of being verbs and helping verbs, and underline all the verbs twice.